Okay, thanks everybody for joining us today. Sorry for getting started a few minutes late. We're expecting a few more to show up, and it seems like they got here. So, today's session is Bluebeam Open Licensing. We expect maybe 15 minutes with some Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, just type them into the Q&A box. The session will be moderated today by Brian Tomita of Bluebeam Software and Joel Marquez of Orange Blade Consultants. So with that said, quick introduction. My name is John Magyar. I'm with Orange Blade Consultants in Arizona. My email address is john@orangeblade.com. That's our office number, 480-559-8670. So let's start talking about Bluebeam Open Licensing. What is it? Bluebeam Open Licensing for Bluebeam Software. It's an annual subscription priced according to volume. So seats can be added to an existing open license at any time, and they will be prorated based on the renewal date. Active subscriptions get unlimited technical support by Orange Blade Consultants. That's for our customers as well as Bluebeam technical support team. So 2 lines of support there, but more about open licensing. How does it work? You'll see that when you launch Bluebeam Review, a request is sent to the Bluebeam Gateway. That's a web accessible portal where licenses are hosted and managed. So what that means is if I am using an open license and I launch Bluebeam Review through the internet, it's a cloud-based tool. It just pings the Bluebeam license server and says, I want to use Bluebeam Review. Is there a license for me? And there is, so I can use Bluebeam Review. And I consume that license, or I hold that license until I close the session. So as soon as I close the session of Bluebeam Review, the license is relinquished and made available for others. So number 2 says, yeah, if a seat's available, it will give it to you. Number 3, once all available seats are unused, you'll get a message saying there's no license available for you. So if we had 50 licenses and it was a very busy day for creating and marking up and using all the tools that Bluebeam Review offers, if I'm that 51st person in, I get the message that there's not a license available for me. So number 4, when an active user closes Review, it's relinquished and it's made available for others. So it's the same tool, it's the same program that you've been using, assuming you're using Bluebeam Review. If not, if you're new to Bluebeam Review, nothing changes. Whether you install what's known as, you'll see the first underlined option here. If you're using a perpetual license or an open license, it's the same experience, the same program. So let's define these 2 types of licenses now. So up until 2 days ago, on August 17th of 2015, there was one license type, and it was the perpetual license. You installed Bluebeam to one machine, and it was quote-unquote married to that machine. Now, you could make it a portable license. So if you were working in the office and you needed to work on a laptop, you could unregister from the office and then register on your laptop, and you've just transferred it from one machine to another, and you can continue to do that. Nothing changes on that end. But the thing about that is sometimes if you forget, what if you forget to unregister from the office and you're in the field thinking, hey, I'm going to use Review for the next 15 minutes. I got to mark some stuff up, make some field observations. And then you open it only to find out, oh, it's not registered, and there's nothing you can do to register it. So that part can become frustrating. So perpetual licenses has its place, intended to be on one machine. Now the introduction of the open licensing is sort of a floating license system, meaning you could have 50 licenses and 200 users. Okay, so 200 people have Bluebeam Review installed on their machines, but what happens is only 50 can use it at any given time, and sometimes that number works. The 1-to-4 ratio, sometimes a 1-to-3 ratio, sometimes even lower than that, meaning you don't have to buy 200 perpetual licenses when you can get 50 open licenses. Okay, so 2 types, perpetual and open. And here's a quick case study. This is ABC Engineering. They have a large office in New York. It's their largest. And they have a smaller office in Seattle. And then they have a handful of people who are constantly on the road. All these people use Bluebeam Review. And instead of buying, I haven't counted them, we'll say 30 licenses to give everybody you see on the screen their own license, we may be able to get away with 8 licenses of Bluebeam Review. Here's our license pool. Here's our people in New York. Here's our people in Seattle. It happens to be 9 o'clock in the morning on a weekday. At 9:01, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in New York have taken a license. So they are consuming a license, leaving 2 available for anybody. Still pretty early in Seattle. It's only 6:04 in Seattle. Our road warriors are traveling, so they're not using a license. But if anybody needed to, there are 2 available. Fast forward to 10 a.m. Well, some of these licenses kind of changed hands, but that's fine. We still have 2 licenses available. I notice this guy still has a license. He's one of our power users, tends to use it a lot. So if I go to noon, well, some of our people in Seattle now have a license. Some of our road warriors now have a license, and just 3. So it's noon. It's lunchtime, so people in New York may be having lunch, except for this guy. Again, he's still using that license. 1 available, though, so if anybody in Seattle, New York, or the road warriors need one, it's available to them. 2 o'clock, things shuffle around just a bit more. And they're all being used. Okay, there are no unused licenses. This guy continues to use the license, and that's fine. Okay, 4 o'clock, the day is just about over in New York. This guy's still using a license, but nobody else is. Most of the people in Seattle have one. 2 of our road warriors have one. Okay, so that's about it, but things changed a little bit. At 2 a.m., I noticed our new office, brand new office in China, and it's a small office. There's only 3 people there, or 3 users of Bluebeam Review, and they all happen to be using a license right now, which is fine. There's 5 available, but it's middle of the night for a lot of these people, or very late. Okay. Now, if one of these people wanted to work late, they could. There are 5 licenses available to them. Okay. Let's scale back a little bit. Although it works great in an enterprise environment, larger companies with multiple offices, many users. What about the small shop? In this case, it's Mom and Pop's Landscape Design out of Gilbert, Arizona, and it's a family business. We have Junior, who does sales and estimating, Dad, who spends a lot of time in the field, and then Mom, who is in charge of design. And they know from experience that although they consider themselves heavy users of Bluebeam Review, they know for a fact they've never all used it at the same time. Now, there's instances where Junior and Mom are in the same office at the same time using Bluebeam Review when maybe Dad's out not using it. Anyways, let's kind of let's look at some timelines here. So at 5:15 a.m., Junior's sleeping, Mom's sleeping, Dad, he's up already, and he is using a license. So he may be on site in a work truck using a Microsoft Surface Pro, using a license of Bluebeam Review. So maybe he's doing site observations, embedding some photos into some PDF plans, anything. So let's fast forward just a bit to 7:15 a.m. Oh, Junior's up, Mom's up. They're both using a license. Dad is no longer using that license. And then we go to noon. Just Mom is using a license. Junior and Dad aren't. And then at 3 o'clock, Junior and Mom are finishing up for the day. Dad's done. But they're both using a license, everybody but Dad. And that 2 licenses for 3 people worked in that situation. So some important notes, some things that I've touched on already and some that I haven't. One is open licensing is valid for Bluebeam Review Extreme only, version 2015.5 or higher. 2015.5 came out a couple days ago, so this is very new. License pools can be shared nationally or globally. So we showed with the different time zones, even the different countries, there are no restrictions globally on where and when the licenses can be used. That's good news. Administrators can control access. What that means is administrators can pull a license back from somebody. And what that means is, maybe I open Review, and 2 minutes later I head into a 3-hour meeting. I know it's going to be all afternoon, but I left Review open on my machine. It's not really being used because I'm not there, but it's being consumed, meaning that license is being consumed. If that's not good, let's maybe make that license available to somebody else. The administrator can pull that license from my machine remotely. And let's see here. So cloud-based license management. No license manager to install or configure on your network. That may be very good news. If you've used other software vendors, you may have installed a local license manager. So somewhere on your network or on your server, you installed a license manager. In the Autodesk world, it's the ADLM, or the Autodesk License Manager. Other products have similar license managers. You don't have to do that as long as you have access to the internet and your users can ping or access the Bluebeam servers. It will manage the license traffic for you, so that's good news. There's no minimum number of seats. So mom and pop were using 2. They could have been using 1. So whether it's 1 or 1,000, no minimum and definitely no maximum. Users can run for 3 days without internet access. I think we answered one of the questions in the Q&A box. So users can run for 3 days without internet access. I'm going to be traveling, and I don't know for a fact that I'm going to have internet access. I have 3 full days to use Bluebeam Review open license without communicating with the Bluebeam license server. Okay. Administrators can release dormant seats, so lunchtime, meetings, people gone with an active session of Bluebeam Review open. You can run a mix of perpetual and open licenses. I don't know if you remember the guy in New York. He was in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and he seemed to always have a license. And he may be the person that is constantly using Bluebeam Review. That wasn't a fluke. That wasn't a day unlike others. So maybe we give him a perpetual license, meaning we tie it to his machine, and he'll never be denied a license. He's such a heavy user of the product, he's not going to get any messages that there's no license available to you or anything like that, and he doesn't have to rely on an internet connection either. So in his case, maybe he gets the perpetual license, but the other people in the office who use it between 20 minutes and 4 hours a day, maybe they're using open licensing to make the most out of the licenses internally. So additional volumes available at 50 and 200 seats. And if you've bought more than 4 licenses of Bluebeam Review at one time ever, you know that there are volume discounts at 5 and 10 and 25 for the perpetual licenses. For open licenses, the tiers are at 50 and 100. Administrators can manage 1 serial number! Exclamation point. That's great news. Here's why. Administrators, they can manage 1 number instead of 1 serial number that's for 10 seats of Bluebeam Review Standard version 11. And then another serial number that maybe just somebody bought temporarily just to get through a 3-month job. And that happened to be Bluebeam Review Extreme version 12, and they put it on maintenance a couple years ago. So that's 2 serial numbers. And then what we considered our large license number, which was maybe 40 seats of Bluebeam Review Extreme, not on maintenance. So there's a 3rd number, and things can get out of hand. And what's worse is, of those 40 licenses of Extreme, maybe somebody refreshed their machine or lost their machine, and long story short, they lost their license too. But with global licensing, the administrators can, like I said, pull licenses back into the pool, so we're not going to lose software assets when machines crash or get stolen or have some sort of a technical episode. So managing 1 serial number is really good news. Run a mix of different seats or releases. 2015.5 and anything after it. So when the next release of Review comes out next spring, if it's called 2016, and you're on global licensing, some, but not all of your people or your users can install and run the new version, and we're not obligated to have everybody install and run the new version, so you can have a mix of releases without issue. Okay, so the Bluebeam Gateway, I mentioned a few times about the administrator having the capability of managing these licenses. So in this case, we'll say I'm the administrator with Fake Architects. We have 25 licenses. One of those is registered, so 1's in use right now. 24 are available Just happens to be early in the morning. So let's fast forward and see that, okay, I see who that one user is. I see when they took the license. And if I want to, I can export to Excel. I can revoke licenses or release licenses and get some reporting available to me. So that's a quick view of the Bluebeam Gateway. That's only for administrators. And then next screen, thank you for joining us. Before we wrap up, I did want to handle some of these questions. I see, so the question is, what happens when your license is revoked? Do you get the chance to save? The answer is yes, you do get the chance to save your work. So it's not a matter of the program disappearing on you without you being able to save your work. You are able to save your work. Are there plans to use open licensing for standard and CAD? I'm going to leave that up to Brian with Bluebeam, and it looks like the answer is there are no plans to offer open licensing for standard or CAD. So it's Extreme only. Let's see. That one was answered already. Okay, I think that's it. If we have any other questions and you didn't chat them to us or put them in the Q&A box, feel free to shoot them off to bluebeam@orangeblade.com or give us a call at 480-559-8670. And I think that's it. So I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time. I think we kept our word and kept this to 15 minutes. So once again, everybody have a good day. It was we're happy that you could attend. Thanks. Bye-bye.